Royal insiders in London are now describing Prince William's Iron Wall as a deliberate and carefully engineered strategy of complete disengagement designed to render the Sussexes invisible on the world stage. $59 million. That is the precise sum King Charles has firmly declined to transfer to Harry. The Treasury door has been bolted shut, and the Crown withholds its resources from those who have treated loyalty as a tradable commodity. The moment Meghan Markle physically displaced the CEO of Centabale at the Polo Trophy presentation was not merely a communications failure. It was the final act that exhausted whatever goodwill remained. In London, Prince William reportedly responded to the footage with a slow, silent shake of his head, a restrained reaction that nevertheless communicated everything. The royal family has reached its conclusion. Meghan is no longer an awkward in-law. She is a designated stranger. Are the British royal family and Hollywood's most powerful agents moving in coordinated silence to remove Meghan from every room that matters? Jeremy Zimmer publicly declared her incompetent at the precise moment the palace severed its last line of communication. Welcome to the Windsor lockout. At the center of the original rupture stood Meghan Markle, the Duchess of Sussex, dressed in a composed, off-the-shoulder white gown. Sophie Chandala, the respected chairwoman of Centabelle and one of its most senior operational voices, had moved forward to present the Polo Trophy to Harry. In a moment that left witnesses genuinely startled, Meghan stepped in front of Chandala, repositioning herself to be the one holding the trophy within camera frame. The footage required no commentary. It was not simply a breach of protocol. It was a live demonstration of a woman placing personal visibility above institutional respect. While that incident was still circulating across newsrooms, Jeremy Zimmer, the chief executive of United Talent Agency, one of the three most powerful talent representation firms operating anywhere in the world, did something that almost never happens in the carefully managed universe of celebrity representation. Following the implosion of the $20 million Spotify deal in late 2023, Zimmer chose not to issue the standard creative differences statement. He spoke directly on the record, and what he said functioned as a professional verdict. As reported by The Guardian in June 2023, Zimmer stated that Meghan Markle turned out to be neither a great audio talent nor necessarily any kind of talent, adding that fame alone does not make someone genuinely skilled at anything. In a business where silence is the currency of diplomacy and every bridge is maintained for future leverage, Zimmer's public assessment operated as a commercial death warrant. It transmitted a message to every major studio and streaming platform simultaneously. The Sussexes had transitioned from prestige assets into reputational liabilities. The fracture deepened when Meghan, in what her team framed as a strategic repositioning, signed with WME, William Morris Endeavor, the direct rival of Zimmer's UTA. This was not simply a change of representation. It was a declaration of open conflict between Hollywood's most dominant institutional powers, with Meghan positioned as the contentious centerpiece in a contest of egos and optics. As the calendar advanced into March 2026, the accuracy of Zimmer's assessment was no longer a matter of opinion. It was confirmed in data. Hollywood and the British royal family, two ecosystems that rarely operate in deliberate alignment, had arrived at the same conclusion through entirely separate calculations. The tactic is disarmingly straightforward, yet extraordinarily effective. Content starvation. For the preceding 5 years, the Sussexes' primary commercial asset had been access. Their worth to Netflix and to Spotify had been constructed almost entirely on their claimed ability to part the curtain on the House of Windsor. The iron wall erected by Prince William has dismantled that supply chain entirely. Every royal occasion is now protected with the precision of a state security operation. William's absolute refusal to engage with Harry outside formal legal channels, routed exclusively through the firm Harbottle and Lewis, has left the couple without a single new disclosure to monetize. Deprived of fresh royal material, Meghan was compelled to pivot toward the domestic lifestyle space, a maneuver that produced the commercially catastrophic launch of her brand As Ever. The financial consequences of that talent vacuum became impossible to obscure by early 2026. Reports published by Bloomberg and the Wall Street Journal confirmed that the original $100 million partnership agreement signed with Netflix in 2020 had been reduced to a first-look arrangement. In the language of Hollywood deal-making, a first-look agreement is the industry's polite formulation for Bring us something that works and we may pay you. Until then, there is no guaranteed income. The data that prompted Netflix's withdrawal is unambiguous. Meghan's lifestyle series, With Love, Meghan, which was positioned as the defining domestic aspirational program of its era, suffered what industry analysts at Variety described as a collapse in audience retention. The show failed entirely to appear within the platform's top 300 titles during its first season. By the first half of 2025, it had settled at position 3,436th across the entire Netflix catalog. For CEO Ted Sarandos, who had once publicly positioned himself as among the couple's most enthusiastic institutional champions, those numbers removed all ambiguity. Sources in Los Angeles have observed that Sarandos quietly distanced himself from the brand's trajectory. The industry reads such gestures with precision, perhaps the most viscerally damaging. Evidence of the brand's deterioration, however, concerns what industry observers have begun calling the ghost warehouses. While Meghan's communications team promoted As Ever as a lovingly handcrafted, artisanal collection of goods curated from her Montecito garden, investigative reporting corroborated by journalist Tom Bauer's findings exposed the industrial reality beneath the pastoral imagery. Supply chain documentation traced the products not to a farmhouse kitchen, but to commercial bottling facilities operating in Ohio and Illinois. The visual contrast between the Duchess in the Garden marketing aesthetic and an industrial assembly line became one of the most widely shared symbols of what critics describe as the Sussex authenticity gap. As reported by Page Six in February 2026 and confirmed by Variety in March 2026, Netflix is currently holding in excess of $10 million in unsold As Ever inventory. This includes premium lifestyle candles returned by early purchasers after manufacturing failures, most frequently wicks that were absent or non-functional, and significant quantities of limited edition strawberry jam that failed to meet basic shelf stability standards, with consumers describing the contents as closer to a thin, watery syrup than a handcrafted preserve. Netflix, which had acquired an equity position in the brand, formally withdrew that investment on March 6, 2026, according to Deadline. The streamer is now understood to be managing the process of liquidating remaining stock without compounding its own reputational exposure in the process. The label that Spotify's Bill Simmons attached to the couple in June 2023, Grifters, has since traveled far beyond a podcast episode. It has lodged itself in the institutional memory of an industry that now treats the Sussex Association as a liability calculation rather than a prestige opportunity. If the polo fields of Florida provided the stage for Meghan's public social displacement, the Form 990, filings of the Internal Revenue Service now provide the documentary evidence for the couple's advancing financial crisis. By March 2026, the founding myth of Sussex financial independence, the central promise of their 2020 departure from royal duties, has encountered a reality that offers no comfortable revision. The operational demands of maintaining a global power couple profile consume capital at a velocity that their diminished brand is no longer capable of matching. The 2024 tax filings for Archewell Philanthropies, the rebranded version of the Archewell Foundation, sent a pronounced signal through the philanthropic sector. As confirmed by Charity Watch in January 2026 and reported by Page Six in December 2025, the organization recorded contributions of $2.1 million against expenses of $5.1 million, generating a net deficit of approximately $2.6 million in a single calendar year. In 2021, at the height of the couple's post-departure momentum, the foundation had attracted over $13 million. The 2024 figure represents a reduction of more than 80% in 3 years. Most significantly, $2 million of the total $2.1 million in contributions originated from a single anonymous donor, meaning that organic, grassroots philanthropic support has functionally ceased. The filings also confirmed, again, that Harry and Meghan each allocated an average of 1 hour per week to the foundation's activities. For major institutional donors, that disclosure has reclassified Archewell from a credible nonprofit to what one sector analyst called a personal visibility vehicle with a charitable registration number. The financial deterioration triggered what insiders describe as a cascading departure of senior personnel at the couple's Montecito operation. By the close of 2025, at least 5 senior executives had left, including the director of communications and the head of operations. The most symbolically significant exit was that of James Holt, a long-standing member of Harry's personal circle who returned to Britain, a move interpreted within the Sussex professional community as a definitive signal that the original ambition, the one that was supposed to conquer Hollywood, had run its course. For Harry, the crisis is not merely professional in character. It is existential in the most immediate and personal sense. Sustaining the lifestyle of a royal in voluntary exile in California carries an annual cost that would strain the finances of even the most commercially successful celebrities. Biographer Tom Bauer and financial analysts tracking the couple's expenditure estimate an annual burn rate of between $3 and $4 million. Harry's private security costs, following his third consecutive loss in the UK courts over taxpayer-funded protection in May 2025, have escalated to between $1.5 and $2 million per year in order to maintain continuous coverage for Meghan and their children in the United States. Their $14.7 million Riven Rock property in Montecito carries mortgage obligations, property taxes, and ongoing staff costs for nannies, housekeepers, and grounds maintenance, estimated at approximately $1 million annually. Years of sustained litigation against the British Home Office and multiple tabloid publishers have drawn down an estimated $1.5 to $2 million from Harry's personal inheritance. The capital left to him by Princess Diana and the Queen Mother, once regarded as a permanent financial buffer, has become a diminishing reserve. With the Spotify contract terminated and the Netflix arrangement reduced to a pay-for-performance model, the couple is confronting a liquidity problem that cannot be resolved through brand management alone. This financial architecture is the true force driving Harry's increasingly visible attempts to re-establish a channel to London. Those familiar with his current state describe him as operating in a condition of functional panic. He understands with complete clarity that once Prince William ascends the throne, an event that now feels proximate rather than theoretical, any remaining access to royal institutional resources and any residual commercial potency attached to the Sussex title may be permanently foreclosed. His desire for reconciliation has moved beyond the emotional and become mechanical. He needs the Montecito estate to remain viable. He needs the private aviation arrangements to continue. He needs the security operation to be sustained. He requires the royal brand to be restored to credibility. He needs, in the most fundamental sense, to remain a prince rather than simply a celebrity. The term grifters, first deployed publicly by Spotify executive Bill Simmons, has solidified as the defining characterization of this period. In Hollywood, where perception constructs reality at speed, the Sussexes are now regarded as a franchise that exhausted its content. The royal disclosures in Spare and the Netflix documentary were the product. Once the product was sold, the shelves were empty. The pivot to domestic goddess branding through As Ever was intended to replace that product. With $10 million in unsold jam and defective candles occupying warehouse space, and with Ted Sarandos redirecting Netflix's attention toward demonstrably profitable creators, the financial enclosure is tightening. As Harry looks toward Britain, he finds a structure that William has constructed with deliberate architectural precision. The strategy is not confrontation, it is attrition. Without royal material to package and sell, the couple has nothing left to offer the market except their debts. While financial spreadsheets in California accumulate losses, the environment at Kensington Palace has acquired the quality of a studied institutional frost. By March 2026, William's approach had evolved from the reactive anger of a wounded younger brother into the calculated posture of an institution protecting itself from a perceived external threat. This is no longer a family disagreement mediated by grief and misunderstanding. It is a managed containment of a risk assessed as real and ongoing. The Sussex's commercial operation was built on a feedback loop with the palace. Every product, the Oprah interview, the Netflix series, the memoir, derived its market value from proximity to the institution. William, operating under counsel from a new generation of strategic advisors, has deployed what communications professionals describe as the gray rock method at institutional scale. By becoming as unresponsive and unengaging as inert stone, William has removed the royal oxygen on which the Sussex commercial ecosystem depends. Every communication from Harry is redirected to Harbottle and Lewis. There are no private calls. There are no informal messages. There are no informal gatherings at any royal residence. Those close to William describe a foundational concern that any private exchange, regardless of its personal context, will be transcribed, refined, and eventually monetized as content. In William's operational framework, Harry is no longer an estranged sibling. He is an active competitor with a documented commercial incentive to record and publish private conversations. The development that has introduced the most acute anxiety into the Sussex situation is the emerging institutional movement within the palace to convert informal exile into formal legal restriction. The constitutional assumption had long been that removing a royal title demanded parliamentary legislation. The Prince Andrew precedent dissolved that assumption entirely. When Charles and William acted to remove Andrew's HRH styling and military affiliations, they did not wait for parliamentary process. They used letters patent, a royal instrument that can be executed in hours. Tom Bower has argued consistently that William is currently oriented toward deploying the same mechanism against Harry and Meghan. The proposed instrument would not require a theatrical public stripping of titles. It would instead legally prohibit the use of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex designations in any commercial context. The original 2020 Sandringham Agreement explicitly forbade monetizing the royal identity, with Meghan selling wellness retreat tickets in Australia at $1,700 per seat and attempting to market royal-adjacent lifestyle products under the Sussex umbrella. William's position is that the agreement has been materially breached. For the Sussexes, the commercial prohibition of their titles is not an ego injury. It is a structural financial verdict. In Hollywood, Meghan Markle without the title is a struggling independent producer with a canceled lifestyle show and a failed jam brand. The Duchess of Sussex is a globally recognized designation that commands attention and commands contracts. Remove it, and the remaining commercial value to Netflix, to WME, and to any luxury brand partnership collapses toward zero. The most damaging allegation to gain institutional traction in early 2026 involves claims of covert content captured during the Sussexes' period as working royals. Sources within the royal household have alleged that Meghan used personal recording devices to capture private rooms, private staff interactions, and private conversations within both Buckingham Palace and Kensington Palace during her operational time as a senior working royal. The footage is alleged to have been gathered in anticipation of a contingency documentary or future memoir project. Within William's inner circle, this allegation has hardened the institutional resolve to a degree that makes any future rapprochement structurally implausible. It has aligned Queen Camilla and Princess Anne with William's position, producing a unified senior royal front committed to ensuring the Sussexes are permanently excluded from every royal property. As William's iron wall holds, the Sussexes are finding access to the rooms that matter increasingly difficult to secure. Through late 2025 and into early 2026, they were absent from the events that previously defined their public profile. The Met Gala, the Oscars, the gatherings at which their arrival once generated the most anticipatory coverage. The Hollywood ecosystem, acutely calibrated to the movement of institutional power, has registered the shift. When Jeremy Zimmer pronounced Meghan untalented, he was not expressing a personal aesthetic preference. He was reading the room. Without William's engagement, the Sussexes are not royals operating outside the system. They are celebrities whose distinguishing credential has been administratively withdrawn. In a parallel effort to establish relevance without palace cooperation, the Sussexes undertook a series of self-organized international engagements in Nigeria, Colombia, and most recently Australia. These tours produced outcomes that reinforced rather than reversed the prevailing narrative. Without the due diligence of palace institutional support, the couple was documented traveling on private aircraft later connected to individuals under investigation in international financial inquiries. William has used these associations as concrete evidence in briefings to the UK government. The Sussexes constitute a reputational exposure for the British state. The conclusion William is engineering does not require a dramatic moment of public confrontation. He is waiting for the arithmetic to resolve itself. Without royal material to sell, and with the iron wall preventing the generation of new material, the Sussex burn rate will eventually produce a total structural collapse. By March 2026, the $100 million Netflix arrangement that was supposed to fund an indefinitely sustained global lifestyle had transformed into a logistical and reputational weight the couple could no longer carry comfortably. The transition from Commonwealth icons to struggling content producers is no longer a tabloid hypothesis. Share your thoughts, subscribe if you have not already done so, and we will continue this story in the next episode.